evening, good morning, good afternoon, hobbyists, painters, gamers, collectors, and pile of shame curators. And that one guy who keeps saying he's waiting for the meta to settle before building models he bought in 2022. Welcome back to the Miniature Misinformer. This is episode 23, the only hobby news show brave enough to mix real news and fake news together and then leave the comments section to sort it out. This week, Warhammer 40k players begin preparing emotionally for the 11th edition pre-orders. A paint manufacturer releases a color nobody can identify. Historical gamers accidentally start a municipal election. And a Canadian hobbyist successfully traded a box of old Space Marines for a half a tank of gas and a large double-double. But first, scientists have confirmed that hobbyists can identify a new miniature silhouette from 300 meters away, yet remain completely incapable of locating the hobby knife they were just holding 30 seconds ago. This study remains ongoing. This week's hobby scandals. 11th edition pre-order fever reaches critical levels. The biggest real news this week, Warhammer 40k 11th edition pre-orders have officially begun. Across the globe, hobbyists have entered the annual ritual known as definitely not panic buying. Reports indicate many players are confidently stating, "I'm only buying the starter box." Industry analysts expect this number to increase to 4 starter boxes by Tuesday. Several hobbyists have already begun posting, "Is it worth getting into 40k right now, or should I wait for 12th edition?" Sources indicate these questions were asked approximately 6 minutes after the 11th edition pre-orders open. Meanwhile, local spouses have reported hearing the phrase, "It's actually a really good value," repeated hundreds of times throughout the weekend. Games Workshop announces new box storage solution. Games Workshop unveiled a revolutionary storage method. Instead of organizing miniatures, you simply buy another shelf. The company claims this strategy has worked continuously since 1987. Shareholders agree. Age of Sigmar players spotted finishing an army. Witnesses in Queensland reported seeing a fully painted Age of Sigmar army. The army reportedly contained finished basing, edge highlights, movement trays, and a matching display board. Authorities briefly considered declaring the individual a National Historic Site. BattleTech players still using models from 1989. A BattleTech veteran was observed fielding miniatures older than several opponents. When asked whether he planned to update his collection, he responded, "Why would I?" A statement economists are now studying. This week's Community Watch. Local gamer claims he's just testing a list. A player arrived for casual game night carrying 3 binders, 6 spreadsheets, tournament statistics, and a probability calculator. He then announced, "Don't worry, this is just a fun list." The investigation remains ongoing. Historical gamers accidentally formed town council. A group of historical wargamers spent 6 hours debating roads, taxation, supply logistics, and municipal infrastructure. At some point, everybody forgot they were discussing a Napoleonic campaign. The meeting concluded with the election of a treasurer. No battles occurred. Malifaux players reportedly enjoying themselves. Local hobbyists remain confused by reports that Malifaux players are constantly having fun, despite not discussing win rates every 15 seconds. Researchers have requested additional evidence. Canadian hobbyist survives winter. A hobbyist from Saskatchewan reports completing 2,400 points of painted miniatures during winter. Experts estimate he had approximately 9 consecutive months indoors to accomplish this feat. The hobbyist described the experience as pretty good, eh? Brush tips nobody asked for. Welcome back to everyone's favorite segment,
Advice nobody requested from people who definitely should not be giving it. Tip number 1. If your paint is too thick, add water. If your paint is too thin, congratulations, you've invented a wash. Tip number 2. Never compare your painting progress to Instagram painters. Remember, many of them spent 4 hours painting that cloak. You just spent 4 hours searching for a mold line. Both are part of the process. Tip number 3. When starting a new army, paint one squad first. Not 3 vehicles, 2 characters, a titan, terrain, a display board, a custom objective markers. This advice is brought to you by experience. Painful experience. Tip number 4. If a technique requires 7 specialty paints, 2 airbrushes, a weather station, lunar alignment, you may safely skip that tutorial.
And now a word from our sponsors. Tired of having manageable hobby collection? Try PileForge Trademark Incorporated storage systems. Our patented shelving technology expands automatically every time you say, "This is my last army." PileForge Trademark Incorporated, because acceptance is easier than organization. Introducing Meta Be Gone Trademark Incorporated Spray. Simply spray it around your gaming table and instantly transform every competitive player into someone who says, "Whoa, that's a cool model." Side effects may include sportsmanship, laughter, narrative campaigns, friendships. Consult your tournament organizer before use. From the makers of Procrastinator Primer comes Gray Plastic Plus Trademark Incorporated, the only primer specifically engineered to look exactly like untouched sprues. Now available in Shame Gray, Regret Gray, Bought It on Release Day Gray, and our newest color, I'll Build It This Weekend Gray. Need hobby motivation? Try the new Canadian Hobby Alarm Clock Trademark Incorporated. Every morning a voice politely says, "Good day, sorry to bother you, but perhaps you could paint a single shoulder pad today, eh?" Studies now show productivity increased by 17%, guilt increases by 400%. Events and exposés. Paint company releases mystery color. A boutique paint manufacturer has released a color called Almost Olive But Not Quite. Painters remain divided. Half describe it as green, half describe it as brown. One hobbyist insists it is emotionally beige. Star Wars Legion player achieves impossible feat. A Legion player reportedly remembered every special rule on every unit. Witnesses immediately suspected witchcraft. Infinity players continue playing chess with lasers. Infinity tournaments continue confusing outside observers. Spectators report hearing conversations such as, "If I move 3 millimeters around that air conditioner and bounce a shot through that alley," at which point everyone else quietly leaves. Rumor mill overload. This week's rumor mill has generated 18 faction predictions, 42 leaked images, 63 fake leaks, 700 YouTube thumbnails. Experts estimate at least 3 of them may contain actual information. This week's rotating minigame. Fake FAQs. Question: can I start a new army before finishing my current one? Answer: absolutely. Finishing armies is merely a suggestion. Question: how many paints do I need? Answer: one more than you currently own. Always. Question: can I proxy this model? Answer: it depends. Is it approximately the correct size, or is it a toaster? Question: will 11th edition finally fix everything? Answer: according to hobby tradition, yes, for approximately 3 weeks. Question: how large can a pile of shame become? Answer: scientists believe there is no upper limit. At sufficient size, it becomes a terrain feature. Question: what is the rarest miniature in existence? Answer: a fully assembled kit that still has every leftover bit organized. Question: how do I know if I'm a painter, gamer, or collector? Answer: if you're listening to this show, you're probably all three and slightly confused about it. Predictions and closing remarks. Before we go, it's time for this week's predictions. Someone somewhere will purchase an 11th edition army starter set and say, I'm splitting it with a friend. They will not be splitting it with a friend. A hobbyist will spend 6 hours researching paint schemes, then paint everything black. At least one BattleTech player will defeat a brand new army using miniatures older than the internet. Someone will discover an unopened box purchased 5 years ago and experience all 5 stages of hobby grief simultaneously. And finally, remember hobbyists, you do not need every release. You do not need every army. You do not need every paint. But if you already bought them, welcome home. I'm your host, and this has been the Miniature Misinformer Podcast, episode 23, where the news is questionable, the rumors are suspicious, and the pile of shame is always expanding. We'll see you next time. Good night, good evening, and good morning, and keep your brushes wet and your wallets hidden.